I'm going to discuss about classes and objects, which is one of the features from C++. I'm Miss Gauri Vaidya, working as an assistant professor at EATC department, KIT's College of Engineering. First, I will give introduction to the class. Class, it is similar to the structure defined in C. Structure, it is nothing but it is a group of dissimilar data type, but it has got some limitation, that is, it does not allow data hiding. But in C++, data hiding features has been supported by the use of class in C++. The only difference between the structure and the class in C++ is that the member of the class are private by default. In class, while by default the members of the structure are public. One of the building blocks of C++ is class, which leads to object-oriented programming. It is a user-defined data type which holds its own data members and member functions. Data members, these are nothing but these are the data variables, and member functions, these are the functions used to manipulate these variables. For example, if you consider the class of ENTC. ENTC, it is one of the department. It can be defined as class. It has got different it has got the different data members, that is second year, third year, and B. These can be considered as the data members. Specifying a class. To specify a class, it has got two parts. One is class declaration and another one is function definition. After this, we are going to see the syntax for specifying the class. This is the syntax for specifying the class. Check now. Keyword class is used over here with the class name. Here they have shown the access specifier private and public. These are called as access specifier to limit the access of variable as well as function. Now if you declare variable and function under the access specifier private, then it is only accessible within the class, not outside the class. But if you define it as a public, then it can be accessible outside the class as well. Now this is very important. See, now the class has been started with the curly bracket and ends with the curly bracket with the semicolon. Curly bracket with the semicolon. This is very important to end the class. The two keywords private and public, these are called as access specifier. These are also called as visibility levels. This is used for the feature of data hiding. They are always followed by the colons. This we have already seen. The class members that have been declared as a private can be accessed only within the class. That is the member functions that are defined inside the class itself. But if we declare it as a public, then it can be accessible from outside the class as well. If you do not specify anything that is either private or public, then by default it is a private. Here I will give you one example of the class. Class name is the test. Keyword class has been used. The data members are X and Y. See, now here no access specifier has been written, so it is by default private. Under public, we have defined one function, that is get data. So this is the member function. Inside get data, what we are doing is that we are inputting X and Y, and another member function, that is put data, to output or to display X and Y. The class has been started with the curly bracket and ended with the curly bracket with the semicolon. Next concept is objects. we have already seen in C how you declare the variable. Now how we declare a variable? First we write the data type of the variable and then the variable name. In similar way, we are going to create an object, or we are going to declare the object with the data type as the class name. Once a class has been declared, variables of that type can be created by using the class name as a data type. See now here the example object has been created, that is T1, and its data type, that is class name, is test. Here only one object has been created, that is T1. We can create more than one object as, see now, here what we have done, we have created more than one object, that is E1, E2 and E3. These are the three objects which we have created. Class name is employee. In this we have data members ID and name. By default they are private. And what are the member functions? These are get name and put name. This has been declared inside the class and will be defined outside the class that we are going to see in upcoming slides. Method to access the class members. The class members are accessed by using the dot operator. Only thing is that the access specifier for accessing the class member, it should always be public. The dot operator, it is also called as member access operator. The general format is object name dot the class member. For example, E1 dot get data. E1 is the object name, get data is the function name. The private data and functions of the class can be accessed only through the member functions of that class. It is not accessible outside the class. This is another example to show how you will access the data members as well as the functions. Now the object created is object 1 with the class name A. See now, here you have got the data members X and Y and member function FU1, but these are private by default. They cannot be accessed outside the class. But data member Z and member function FU2 can be accessible outside the class. See now, if you write obj1.x, then it will generate the error. Obviously, it is under the private section. Also, obj1.fu1 will also generate the error as it is a private. But you can write obj1.z. It is valid, as well as obj1.fu2. It is also valid. Defining the member function. Member functions can be defined inside the class as well as outside the class. If you define it inside the class as well as outside the class, it is identical. It will perform the same task irrespective of where you are going to define it. Outside the class, the syntax is the member function need to be declared inside the class if you are going to define it outside the class. Return type, class name, scope resolution operator, and function name. These two columns, it is called a scope resolution operator, and its use is that it states that function, it belongs to that particular class. Check the example, you will get good idea of that. Here you have the member function as get data. Check where it is defined. Is it defined inside the class or outside the class? Here you can see it is defined outside the class, right? So get data, to declare, first you should declare it inside the class. Void get data, empty parenthesis, semicolon. It is the function declaration. How we differentiate between declaration and definition is that if a function name ends with the semicolon, then it is declaration. If it does not end with the semicolon, it is a function definition. Here it has first declared and defined outside the class. Inside the class, you're just going to replace the function declaration with the function definition. Only remove the semicolon from the function declaration. See now, here the semicolon has been removed. Array of objects. Now we have seen the example to declare one object, two object or three object. But if in case we have to declare more than 10 objects or 20 objects, we cannot define it or declare it as a separate variable. For that we can use the array of object. See now here you have created the object department 1, department 2 and you are going to create the array of that. Means what? It's going to consider 10 variables of department 1, 10 variables of department 2. Employee is the class name. We are only going to create the array of object. So now at the end you are going to write down the program to showcase the use of class and object with a member function. You are going to define it inside the class as well as outside the class. I have given some parameters over here. You are going to consider the class name as employee, data member, age, ID, salary and name. And the member functions are input data to input the above parameter, output data to display the data. Now see what you're going to do is that you're going to consider the class as employee. In this you're going to consider data members, age, ID, salary, name. By using the input data function, you're going to give the command to the user to input age, ID, salary and name. And by using output data, you're going to display the data on the screen. Thank you. In the next slide, we will discuss about class and object and access specifier. Thank you.